Ich darf Sie herzlich zu unserem heutigen F3-Abend im Schmälerhaus begrüßen. Es ist mir eine besondere Freude, Ihnen unseren heutigen Gast vorzustellen, denn im Gegensatz zu ihm ist dieser Abend für mich als neue Mitarbeiterin an der Kunstsammlung nämlich eine Premiere. Tadashi Kobayashi wird heute seinen zweiten Vortrag in diesem Rahmen halten. Derzeit ist er Stipendiat des Goethe-Residenzprogramms hier am Haus und außerdem Kurator am Hyogo Prefectural Museum of Art in Kobe. Nachdem er in seinem ersten Vortrag den Umgang der japanischen Gesellschaft mit dem westlichen Konstrukt Museum für moderne Kunst thematisierte, wird es heute um einen aktuellen Trend in der zeitgenössischen Kunst Japans gehen. Dieser Trend lässt sich an einem verstärkten Interesse für politische, aber auch soziale Themen festmachen. Am Beispiel verschiedener künstlerischer Arbeiten, die um 1930, 1969 und nach 2011 entstanden, stellt Tadashi Kobayashi die Beziehung zwischen politischen Demonstrationen in der städtischen Öffentlichkeit und künstlerischer Praxis dar. Dear Tadashi, thank you very much for being our guest tonight. We are very curious to learn more about your work, and the stage is yours. So.
Thank you, Nora, for kind introduction. I also thank you, everyone, for attending to my lecture today. I would like to talk about the representation of the demonstration in Japan, in Japanese art. This theme is related to my own question, how Japanese contemporary artists represent political and social issues, or how they don't do that. This question is, as you may easily imagine, strongly connected to the disaster happened in March 11th, 2011. After the Great East Japan earthquake and the severe accident at the Fukushima nuclear power plant, social circumstances and political situation of Japan have changed significantly. Change of government from the Democratic Party of Japan to the Liberal Democratic Party, reopening of nuclear power plants, the enactment of the Bill of Protection of Specially Designated Secrets, the negotiation for Trans-Pacific Partnership Agreement, or arguments of reinterpretation of the Constitution, which allow the self-defense force to use its force overseas as an exercise of the collective self-defense. Those great many serious political issues have been decided, and some of these are still under discussion. Towards these issues, lots of demonstrations have been performed as an act of citizens. Even its scales are variable. What is surprising for me is that many normal people get involved in these demonstrations, because the demo has been considered as a kind of extreme action performed by biased or partisan people. Needless to say, it is wrong prejudice. Every Japanese understands that the demonstration is legal and civilized action, and that is a part of our human right to express our own opinion. Nevertheless, there have been also kind of prejudice and wrong impression until quite recently in Japan. But thanks to the effort of Students' League SEALS, Students' Emergency Action for Liberal Democracies, which organizes open and casual-styled demonstrations, such a prejudice seems to be gradually dispelled. The image of the demonstration is changing now. I think that this change might be reflected in artworks of contemporary Japanese artists. Through the examples of these artworks, I would like to talk about the difficulty of Japanese people to behave on the world as an individual with political responsibility, and how could we reconcile with it. At the beginning, I like to show the work of Yoshinori Niwa in 2011, entitled Walk in the Opposite Direction of a Demonstration Parade. Artist explains that the concept is to show the ambivalent feeling of his own towards the demonstration parade. Artist had very same opinion to the claim of the demonstration, but at the same time he couldn't refrain from feeling hesitation to participate in it. As a way of mediation, he joined the demonstration parade with walking in opposite way. As a fact, this demonstration was held in Shinjuku, Tokyo, in June 11th, 2011. Its claim was against the nuclear power plant. I am curious about how do you think about the ambivalent feeling of the artist? Because, to be honest, I also have sometimes similar hesitation towards the demo. I think this is in common to the Japanese people even now. This is totally different problem from whether for or against the issues. This feeling is towards simply to the very act of taking part in the demonstration parade. It could be come from not only the fear for expressing opinion in public, but also from a rebellious spirit, a sort of pride that doesn't allow to express opinion with depending on the collective act such as demonstration. The latter, a kind of rebellious spirit or an aspiration to be independent, may be a reaction to the peer pressure in Japanese society, which forced to behave as majority do. So now play the movie. So, apart from the artist's intention, this work is also to be a detailed document of various types of demonstrators, drinking beer, holding a placard in hand, or hiding face with putting mask on mouth. According to the artist, this demonstration parade consists of several groups, including labor unions and communists, and so on. Ambivalent state of mind is represented in another work of same artist, such as this, Demo Neon Sign, in 2012. Red neon sign consists of Japanese three letters, de, mo, ne. Through the play on the Japanese language, it is uncertain whether this word implies it's demo ne, but mind you, demo ne, so it's kind of negative feeling. So this ambivalence or unrelaxed mood towards the demonstration is picked up by another artist, Makoto Aida, who is one of the leading person in middle aged. His work, Your Pronunciation is Wrong, is the document of performance disguised in the demonstration parade in New York. In this fictional demonstration, artist and his peers are against to the complicated English pronunciation which native speakers fluently do, and insist that everybody should speak English with simple and strong pronunciation like Japanese do. So its claim is so funny and nonsense. This work obviously makes fun of an inferiority complex of Japanese who are not good at speaking English. But it may also be intended to suspend the seriousness of the demonstration, which is inevitably associated with its action. When first appeared in 2000, this work would be filled with a funny, humoristic connotation. But if we think of the fact that the very next year of its execution, in 2001, 9/11 was occurred, this work became more implicit and a bitter criticism. This work could be also comprehended as a serious protest from the non-English speaking world against the globalization and the hegemony of the English as a universal language. The work Demonstration Machine for One Person is another example of Aida. This machine enabled one to perform the demonstration accompanied with Schutzrecall alone. It is certainly the caricature of the stereotyped demonstration, that is to say, parade of collective people in yelling a slogan in chorus. As a principle, one can perform the demonstration by oneself without a Schutzrecall. Just to walk or stand on the road could be authentic political gesture. But most of Japanese are not able to take action without tracing prefixed format. This is why artists required to invent this satirical machine. So in this video, artist performed the demo in the gallery of his solo show just a few days before the opening, with claiming against the deadline of execution of artwork. So he said, real deadline is when I died. The most important thing is not the deadline, but the quality of the artwork. People in future. Never mind if the artist keeps his deadline or not. So, placard and shipwreckle, both of which appeared in works of Niwa and Aida. They are typical attachment now considered as a kind of symbol, icon, or cliché of demonstration, which show this action is collective and organized one. This nature may have a risk to suppress the individual feeling, and that is why one feels sometimes hesitation to take part in it. However, needless to say that vulnerable people need to get together and to organize a group for raising their voice. The demonstration had to begin as a collective, organized activity, inevitably. At the beginning of the 20th century, demonstration was primarily the class struggle by the labor and low-income people. The first May Day in Japan was held in May the 2nd, 1920. After that, May Day demo had been conducted every year until 1936, when the law prohibited it. In 1920s, there were numerous representations of the demo and as a kind of labor movement in the works of proletarian art movement. One of the most important representative is this attack at the factory by the strikers, drawn by Toki Okamoto in 1929. Okamoto's original painting had been sent to the Soviet Socialist Federal Republic soon after the show in Japan, and then had gone missing. That is why the artist needed to restore by himself his memorial work afterward. But in recent years, the original was rediscovered in the storage of the State Hermitage Museum. This rediscovery was a big news in Japan. I am sorry, but I can show you today only the image of restored version. To be precise, the people in this painting were not demonstrators, but strikers. But I feel need to show this work as a representative of the proletarian art movement. In this painting, laborers turned their backs on us. This gesture should be read as the sign of encouraging beholder to participate in the movement. At the both sides of composition, we can find red flags, the sign of the communism. This is another example of the labor movement, this time of the demonstration. Nakaji Yasui, one of the most important photographers in earlier half of 20th century Japan, documented the May Day demonstration performed in Osaka in 1931. In these serial works, laborers are marching with waving red flags and with singing labor songs. In the negative sheet film, we can make sure that Yasui searching sequential events of the demonstration parade until the arrest by the police. Its approach could be similar to the type of reportage. But for elevating reportage to his own artwork, Yasui employed various techniques such as multi-layered printing, bold trimming, emphasizing of blurring, or elimination of background image. These manipulations enhance the impression of the sublimity of the presence of the individuals. They seem to cry out that, look at what's going on. Why don't you join us? After the defeat in the World War II and occupation by the general headquarters, the May Day demonstration resumed. That was in 1946, after a blank of 11 years. In first years, the main issues was food shortage. Around 1951, the year when the peace treaty was concluded with Allied, the main issues shifted to the Japan's rearmament and the arrangement of Japan-US military alliance. These have been the most important political issues even today, although there has been no open discussion in public. Taro Okamoto is the artist who was spending his 1930s in Paris. In this period, he drew painting with the style akin to the surrealism and abstract. In the post-war period, his activities became more unique and diversified. He is well known even in public today because of one of those as a kind of TV personality. In 1954, he drew the painting entitled Blue Sky. Its subject is the outburst of violence between the demonstrators and the police in 1952 May Day demo that killed two demonstrators, Masao Takahashi and Hiroshi Kondo. This victim caused the name of the Bloody May Day. On the left side of the painting, you can find a broken red flag. So, this one. It was said that Sony object on bottom right corner here. These are representing the violence of police who fired gun to demonstrators. In 1950s, protest struggle against the expansion of U.S. military base were organized by farmers, laborers, and students. Artists like Kikuji Yamashita, Tatsuo Ikeda, and Hiroshi Nakamura tried to cooperate with these struggles in painting so-called reportage painting. Nakamura's Sunagawa No. 5 is one of these attempts, whose subject was taken from the Sunagawa struggle, performed in Tachikawa, Tokyo. In 1960, one of the largest post-war demonstrations occurred. The issue was against the Nobusuke Kishi cabinet, who aimed at the revision of the U.S.-Japan Security Treaty. In this struggle, Michiko Kamba, the young female student of Tokyo University, was killed. This news shocked whole Japan. For all that, the treaty at issue was automatically enacted without a vote at the House of Councilors. And then Kishi cabinet resigned en masse to take the responsibility for the upheaval caused by the signing of the treaty. Photographer Hiroshi Hamaya documented this conflict over the Japan-US Security Treaty in 1960 and summarized them in photo book entitled Tokyo 1960, Days of Rage and Grief. One of his pictures represents mass of protesters wearing headband for conveying their solidarity. In another work, a mass of students is struggling with another mass of police who are completely replaced by inhuman shapes of helmet. The composition is divided into two parts by the horizontal line in the middle, and we understand the event as the conflict of two masses or two volumes. The treaty in 1960 had set a fixed period of 10 years. After the end of this period, to be reviewed, and then the treaty would have been automatically updating for each year. At the timing of this reviewing, the conflicts were performed again around 1970. In response to the international student movement started by the May Revolution of 1968, all campus struggling leagues were organized and student groups performed protest activities at the universities throughout Japan. Helmet and wooden staff, so-called gebabo, stoning, Molotov cocktail. Those kind of combative tooling was characteristic to conflicts around 1970. In the course of the movement, conflict between organizations became serious. Large-scale demonstration was carried out in front of the National Diet, but it didn't interfere reenactment of the treaty and automatic updating. After the failure of protest, internal strife within sect was intensified. Activities of extremists, such as coalition-led army, radicalized. The momentum as a general movement went lost. Between conflicts around 1960 and 1970, Tokyo Olympic Games were held in 1964. In the same year, legendary monthly comic magazine Garo was founded. This magazine was dedicated to an epic comic, The Legend of Kamui, by Sanpei Shirato, who is the beloved of management editor Shoichi Nagai. Legend of Kamui is the ninja story which was casting a variety of protagonists from different classes in Edo era, such as farmer, discriminated lower-class people, merchant, and samurai. Severe and profound understanding about the human nature, the intensity of the class struggle, outstanding excitement as entertainment. These features made the author a hero of students who were committed to the protest movement. Sanpei Shirato is a son of Toki Okamoto, whom I referred as the representative of proletarian art movement in 1920s. In Shirato's work, not only Legend of Kamui, but also other titles. Ikki, Riot of Farmers, plays an important motif. In Shirato's regard, Ikki is not only a popular uprising or revolution, but also a kind of legal activities requiring authentic procedures, which is akin to demonstration and strikes of today. Shirato made detailed research and tried to represent Ikki not as mere riot, but as an act of protest and the last resort of class struggle for depressed people, even though which inevitably requires victims. How Shirato and his works were respected not only by the student and younger generation, but also creators is verified by the fact that the famous film director Nagisa Oshima cinematized Shirato's comic Band of Ninja with the experimental way in which Oshima shooting the drawing of Shirato and edited them into 2 hours long movie. This is trailer of Oshima's film.
悲しみを忘れた男、幸せも忘れた男、ただ一人夕焼け雲の声を聞く。影丸影丸何をするのか影丸。風に乗り風に消える、どこから来たか影丸、どこから来たか影丸。苦しみを知らない男、喜びも知らない男、ただ一人大地の果てに夢を見る。影丸影丸どこへ行くのか影丸。
In the middle of 1960s, there was another important example of protest activities. It is of the Citizens League for Peace in Vietnam, known as Beheiren, which was organized by a variety of intelligence such as Makoto Oda, author, Shunsuke Tsurumi, philosopher, Michitoshi Takabatake, political scientist, and so on. This organization had no terms nor membership roster, politically independent, aiming the anti-war movement with simple policy just against the U.S. Its most famous activity in the context of art was full-page advertisement appealing peace in the Washington Post in 1967. The impressive calligraphy consists only of 3 characters, korosuna, meaning do not kill, was written by Taro Okamoto, whom I mentioned with his work Blue Sky. In the conflicts of 1970, Shinjuku Station was one of the central places for the protest activities. Photographer Shuji Yamada shot the crowd that filled the Shinjuku Underground Square of Western Exit. That was place for appealing peace by the young people with singing protest folk songs, which was called folk guerrilla, and got the broad attention at that time. For this activity, the Metropolitan Police Department gave a forced exclusion with the help of riot police. This exclusion was based on the road traffic law. The police insisted that the square was not a square, but a road, so that people ought not to occupy the place and not to disturb public traffic. After the exclusion, the place was renamed Shinjuku Underground Passage of Western Exit. In this picture, Yamada took the bird's eye point of view, which made clear contrast with Nakaji Yasui's approach. In Yamada's work, individuals were abstracted into a mass stream or an overwhelming volume. Another photographer, Shomei Tomatsu, shot the protesters on the road in Shinjuku as well. His work, Protest, makes clear contrast with Yamada's and also with Yasui's. Tomatsu was portraying his protester in the composition of one to many. Here, protester is bare and isolated, keeping distance from the opponents. These features are far from other artists' way of representing protesters and conflicts, and that seems to imply the purity and powerlessness of the movement, as well as their failure and the end in frustration or disillusion. The square, place for people to get together, which had been excluded from Shinjuku Station, would reappear as the remarkable topos in the following year, 1970, at the site of World Exposition in Japan, known as Osaka Expo. One of the protagonists of the episode is Taro Okamoto, third time again. Festival Square was designed by the two most influential architects, Kenzo Tange and Arata Isozaki. This place was intended to stage the opening and closing ceremony and other huge-scale events, although architects had initially conceived to cover a whole huge square with a plain, flat, and broad roof. Taro Okamoto envisions building like huge-scale monument, Taiyo no To, meaning Tower of the Sun, as the symbol of Expo at the center of there. So this is the one. This extraordinary plan was realized by the only way of making a big hole in the center of roof. After around 1970, it may be said that there was no demonstration which is carried out on a nationwide scale until after the March 11th, 2011. Actually, it was not a nationwide scale, but I like to mention the peace movement against the dispatch of self-defense force abroad in 1991 at the occasion of Gulf War and in 2003 when the Iraq War occurred. Especially in 2003, Noi Sawaragi, art critic, and Masanori Oda, artist and activist, organized the against war movement entitled Korosuna, meaning don't kill. Needless to say, this name was taken from the calligraphy of Taro Okamoto in 1967. Korosuna took shape of various actions such as not only normal demonstration on the road, but also the demo on the internet or live performance. That was a rare example of anti-war movement which involved artists and art-involved people at that time. This is one of the activities performed in the gallery of Mito Art Center, where was held the solo show of Noboru Tsubaki, UN Boy, United Nations Boy. Organizer explained that the museum would be public space as well as on the road. So why not to be able to perform demonstration in museum? You see, this demonstration as performance was with large volume sound. According to the description of Noi Sawaragi, this large sound made watchguard run away and child start crying. Sorry for interfering. So now I catch the word volume. Volume as a number of people and its physical massiveness, or volume as largeness of sound or noise. Is volume essential in the demonstration? To understanding the demonstration as the conflict or competition of volume seems to be too simple, too crude, too barbaric, and irrational. But actually, I dare to say that the power of volume, which inevitably have a risk to be savage and barbaric, is nevertheless essential in the demonstration. I don't mean that demonstration of minorities is meaningless. I want to say that the very act of occupying public space to show his interest with body, with physical volume, could be meaningful and have a powerful impact as a political act. In his essays in 2012, philosopher Koichiro Kokubun noted about violent aspect of demonstration as following, quote, "What is the demonstration? It is the appearance of the mob, which can't control without violence. The very appearance of the mob is the message saying, don't think forever, that we are obedient. So demonstrators should not be highly conscious about the political matter, just enough to work with eating hot dog, sandwiches, and talking. No need to think about how democracy works in right way. Revelry is good enough. Invitation of a friend is good reason to join. Somehow people get together and just walking. That is the demonstration." End quote. Here I like to introduce the work of artist group Chimpom, which represents the power of volume. In their work Black of Death, they summoned the flock of crows by reproducing sounds of crows using loudspeaker and then take them to the Tokyo's main spots such as Shibuya and National Diet. This work was shot in 2008 and artists continued this performance in 2013 again. In 2008, demonstration was not so popular yet in Japan. At that time, it would be difficult to think this work as relevant to the demo. But when we see this work today, it is difficult not to remind the demonstration, especially when we see the crows flying over the National Diet. I think the artist also understanding this connotation, and that would be why the performance was carried out again in Fukushima, possibly in difficult-to-return zone. So let me see the movie. I'm afraid, but please take care about recording now. So, as a final example of today's lecture, I like to show the work of Koki Tanaka. He is well known through his solo show in Japan Pavilion at the 55th Venice Biennale in 2013. He is elected also as the Artist of the Year of Deutsche Bank in 2015 and held the exhibition at Berlin Kunsthalle this spring. A behavioral statement or an unconscious protest was firstly showed at the Japan Pavilion in 2013. The actions performed in this movie is also highly metaphoric as well as Chimpom's. There was no direct mention to the demo in this work. As for the connotation to the specific event, it is relevant to the power-saving problem stemming from the nuclear power plant accident. Going up or going down the fire escape stairs instead of using elevator, which moves by electric power. Artists note that this simple act could be an active protest. If we approach to this work in more proactive way, we may find the key to think about the condition and possibility of social activity such as the demonstration. There appears two groups. One departs from the ground to the rooftop. Another group moves in opposite direction. When they encounter at the middle of stairs, they give their way gently each other to avoid the collision and then reach it to their destination. The sequence of actions is captured from different point of views, close up and long shot. With close-up shot, participants appear as individuals whom we can figure out each other, and with long shot, participants are reduced to the stream of two volumes. We can see in this work a set of metaphors of status of human being, to be individual and to be a part of mass, and also a metaphor of reconciliation of conflict between two groups which have different destination. Before appreciating the movie, I also like to address that the artist is very conscious about the fact that participants are a collective of individuals who have their own name and philosophy. This is not only the matter of credits in which every participant are named. You find every participant were asked by artists to bring with them the book they cherish. These books work as a medium for conversation. We find how individuals start to communicate each other so timidly. This kind of sociality is certainly weak field for Japanese, and that is why their timid trial make me moving. Within the actions of participants, we will believe in the solidarity without headbands nor shipwreck. Participants are collective existence for a while, and then they are back to the individual. So let me show the work now.
硬いものが地面に一回早めに避難してコンクリートが揺れてるとかアスファルトが揺れてるみたいな
シャウトしない子たちだったらしてくれたらいい。タイガーが生でいますか。無駄なことはタイガー。無駄などういうことタイガー。
耳の下までなんかちょっと離れたいですね。ちょっと違うね。でも英語は分かんないです。まあ引っ張られる可能性が知識もあるし能力もあれば引っ張られるやつができます。こういうのがね。中華は
人がぶつかってきたから。
すごいね。ここはいいや。あれなんですかね。かなり真っ白ならしいです。非常階段って割と狭くないですか？狭いですね。狭い。冗談で大里さんが僕の体験の中で
出ると閉じ込められる。そうなんです。怒られる。あの辺ですよね。そうそう。電車で行くより。家とかでめっちゃなんか何デザインする
そうですよ。
先生までに見えます
So earlier I said the volume is important for the demonstration. Here now I like to say that if we reduce the significance of demonstration and its source of power only to the volume, mere abstract figure, we would lose the continuity of the movement. The volume is important, but at the same time, the demonstrator must not lose their name in absorbing into the volume. I know I say two contradictory things, but I find the fact that the beginning of the demonstration is the action of individuals who appear on the road just for a while, in responsibility of only their own name. At this moment, his daily social status may be eliminated. His existence moves from realm of private to public, and vice versa. This shift is a privilege which is allowed to the people so-called social existence, not to end the demonstration as a transient boom. The demonstration has to be launched in the name of individuals. The name of individual imbues the volume of the movement with its vitality and reason. So thank you so much for your patience and kind attention.